Okay, welcome to this episode of the Globetrottin ADs. We're going to have a special guest, Kirby, later on in a bit, and we're going to do a little follow-up to our special we did the last time with Isla from Sarajevo concerning the International Women's Day episode. We have some awesome replies we got back from our Twitter question, and Nick's going to give you some information about that.
Yeah, Matt, during the episode, asked if everyone out there could name a female who has positively impacted your development or career in teaching, coaching, or as an AD. And I took it to Twitter that week and tried to force some answers out of some people, and it was awesome. We got some great replies, and we're just going to go over and thank some of those people that took the time to answer. But first, just want to say that this is definitely not a coronavirus episode. Obviously, all the attention out there is what can we do during this time and all the things to help our athletes. But we're going to stick to kind of a normal conversation with Kirby later that we recorded last week and try to give you some normalcy.
Yeah, so we're hoping this will maybe give a little levity to folks and take their mind off the current situation. I know everybody's been in a flux and going through a lot of fluid situations. So we hope this gives you a little bit of respite from that, and you can think about your programs, think about your kids, and then get some good information from what Kirby has to offer in a little bit.
So the replies on Twitter came in, I guess, 3 different sections, I would say. We have some people that talked about coaches or colleagues of theirs, and a lot of people talked about their wives and their family. Some others were very interesting. They got some replies right back. So some of you mentioned other people that were on Twitter, and they got replies the same. So it kind of the question was kind of organic and kind of spun off into people that we don't even know. So that was really cool. Matt, do you want to pick something out to start?
Yeah, sure. Like you said, it's so cool to see people. We're not really familiar with all of these folks. I mean, that's the great part of, I guess, getting an audience like we're getting. But you can see how people have made these impacts. They worked hard with their folks. And my comment was my student teacher advisor back in 1994. Her name was Mrs. Harper. And when I first got into teaching or my teacher training and getting into my student teaching assignment, this woman was super influential in showing me how to do it properly, how to be a good PE teacher, how to be organized, how to communicate with kids and stay on top of your program. So she was one of the first influencers I can think of in terms of being a female in my career. So thank you, Ms. Harper, wherever you are down there in Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah. I was kind of similar to you. I not a student teacher, but my 8th grade teacher, I remember, who was a big football fan. And she was a Redskins fan, and I was a Bills fan, or still am. And she just made the class so much fun with connecting with all the kids on a personal basis and not just talking about school. So I really remember that and try to connect with all the kids in a way that she connected with us. So, of course, we all could have picked our wives, right, Matt?
Yeah. So we got a lot of folks mentioning family, and which was great, because our lives as ADs they can be a little hectic, of course, with our busy schedules and late hours, and we're super lucky that we can have our families that are flexible and supportive. I know from my perspective, my wife's been really great. She coaches, she helps out the program. She's positive, she works hard. So we've got a lot of responses from folks mentioning their wives, giving a shout out to wives. And no doubt we couldn't do these jobs without them. But we also had some other females in terms of family, some guys giving shout outs to their moms and also daughters as inspirational females who've given them some insights to doing their job better. So that was cool to see too. Mike from Bangladesh had mentioned his daughter, how he became better at his job as he worked to facilitate her opportunities as an AD.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. And you mentioned Mike, who's in Bangladesh right now, is Canadian. In this section, we had people from India and Luxembourg, and obviously Rich and Mike in the U.S. and Noah, who's in Moscow. So the answers also, span the globe, which was very cool.
Yeah. Also had a mention of some famous people like Pat Summitt and Sherry Cole. Thank you, Jason from Oklahoma, for those mentions.
Yeah, it was really cool. And like I said about the answers that got replies, in this day and age of collaboration, and not just thinking of role models at home or in the past, but some current big influences from Mikey Johnson got some replies, and Anthony Hennelly got a reply, and Billy Fitz all got replies from other people, which was pretty cool to read.
Yeah, so big thanks to everybody for replying to that. And this International Women's Day only comes once a year, so we were happy to get a chance to support that and honor the ladies who impact athletics in a positive way. So thank you for everyone for participating.
Right. Yeah, and thank you, Matt, for posing the question, and we'll definitely have to do some more of those as we move forward.
All right.
So now we want to kick it to our pre-recorded conversation with Kirby Boychuk. This was recorded a week ago before everything kind of kicked off, but as mentioned, we hope you take something out of it. If not to start to work on while you're home now, that you can really bring to your programs once we get back to the usual routine. Enjoy the conversation, and talk to you soon.
Coach Evaluator is the premier coach evaluation software for schools and athletic organizations and preferred coach evaluation solution of the NIAAA and the Positive Coaching Alliance. The system is completely customizable with an always growing evaluation template library for athletic directors to reference. Coach Evaluator offers a built-in workflow tracking each coach evaluation from start to finish, including document uploads and email notifications. There are not only evaluations for ADs to use, but also self-evaluations and parent-player evaluations of coaches. There is built-in detailed historical reporting allowing the athletic director to analyze their coach's performance over time. Learn more about digitizing and simplifying your coach evaluation process by visiting www.coachevaluator.com. Mention Globetrottin ADs to receive a $200 discount on the yearly rate. Our guest today is Kirby Boychuk. Kirby is an AD from the American Anglo School of Moscow, and our topic today centers around student groups in your athletic activities program that assist in programming. Kirby is a veteran AD who has served in several international schools over the years. He's been instrumental in developing PD opportunities for ADs, coaches, PE teachers, and aquatics folks through his International Association of Athletic Administrators and Coaches conference, magazine, and website. So I know Kirby's originally from Canada, and he'll give us some little more background information. So welcome, Kirby.
Hey, thank you guys. This is a pleasure and an honor. I think you guys are doing some great stuff here. It's fantastic.
Well, thanks, Kirby, and hi everyone. My name is Nick, as always, and Kirby, why don't you get us started with just a profile of your background? Obviously, Matt said where you are now, but where were you before, and how did you get started?
Well, geez, this is my 29th year in education, in teaching. I started 29 years ago, and 25 of those years are overseas. So, started off in Canada, actually as a theater teacher, believe it or not, as a drama teacher. And after, I think it was my second year of teaching in public school in Canada, I minored in physical education at university, and we didn't have much of a PE program at the school, and I kind of begged my principal to take over, or at least teach a couple PE classes. And he said, sure, but you're going to have to actually give up your theater classes. And I went, oh. So I made the switch, but I ended up still being the director of the school plays and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then next thing I know, after 1 year of being the PE teacher, I ended up becoming the athletic director. And I think I was only like 23 years old at the time. And that's the road I ended up following for the next 28 years. And so finished off teaching PE and being an AD in Canada, and then went overseas 25 years ago. And let's see, 95 was the first job, was in Haiti. That was some fun times. And then moved to the Middle East, was in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and had a good time in Ethiopia after leaving the Middle East. And ended up in India, and for the last 6 years now in Moscow. And during that time, raised 3 lovely daughters overseas who all went to, who of course attended international schools and had the international life, and who are now back in Canada, working and going to university, and now working after university, and found my lovely wife overseas, and who wasn't actually too far from just the province over, but we met overseas. And 25 years later in Moscow.
Awesome.
Wow. How did you get that first job in Haiti? That's interesting. There was an international school there.
Yeah, well, you know what it was, and of course this is back in the day, well before any internet or anything like that. So this is, oh my Lord, it had to be 93, I want to say. And a good friend of mine who was working at the neighboring school in rural Canada, he didn't show up one September at school, and I'm asking around where he is, and somebody said he was in Korea. So I spent the whatever it was, $7 a minute back in the day, and ended up getting his phone number from his parents, and phoned him in Korea and asked him, geez, how did you get here? What are you doing? And he's teaching at an international school. And he said he went to the Queen's Recruiting Fair in Kingston, Ontario. And so I contacted them about a year later and filled in all the paper and had to get everything in on time, and wrote all the documents that you needed and sent my whole file away, and flew down to Kingston, Ontario, and went to a job fair. And I didn't have a clue really where, any place in the world I was going to go. And I had some great interviews with some places in Ecuador, in Dominican Republic, in Haiti, in Costa Rica. There was a couple of jobs in Europe, and these guys just happened to offer me a job in Haiti. And so I went down there to the Caribbean to teach for a year.
That's good. I love hearing people's backstories, like how they got into the international school life. So it's always, I love hearing about that leap of faith you take when you just kind of go out there and go for it. It's always great.
Yeah. Oh, it was something. I mean, I didn't really understand the whole international thing, and I'll just do a quick aside. Actually, a couple of years before that, when I was teaching in Canada, and I was kind of looking for a new job, there was an advertisement in the local city newspaper for a job in the Netherlands Antilles. And it said, it was a come teach in the Caribbean. And I said, okay, well, this is interesting. So I went up to my parents' place at Christmas time, and it happened to be in a city that was only half an hour away. And I made a phone call to them. And it happened to be the principal of this school. And she was obviously back in Canada for Christmas. And she ended up saying, yeah, well, no problem. Why don't you come over to my house and I'll interview you. And this is 92, right? She goes, come over to the house, I'll interview you. This is where I live. And this is the time that you need to come. And I went, okay, yeah, sure, no problem. Never went to the interview, of course. And probably a couple hours later, my phone rings at my parents' house. And they said, hey, did you miss the interview? And I kind of went, well, you know what? I didn't just fall off the turnip truck. What do you think I am, crazy? I'm going to go to your house for some sort of interview. This is all whack. Are you going to, I'm going to show up there. I'm going to fly into some country and you guys are going to, take my kidneys from me and all this other kind of stuff. I was completely, shell-shocked by this whole thing. Funny story, about 10 years later, my wife is working in Indonesia, and we were in two different countries for a while, and she's going, here, I got a funny story to tell you. This is my husband who, boom, 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 this happened to him he applied for this job, and her principal goes, "Oh my God, this is the guy that you married. I was back." This is small world, right? So was her principal. That was the lady that I basically told, "I'm not going to ever work overseas, and you guys think you're crazy." So it is interesting how this all happens.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, you never know when paths cross again. That's for sure. Well, Kirby, from the survey that you helped me put out, one of the big wishes that ADs have if they had more time was to work more with students and to do more and kind of affect more lives directly with the students. And we wanted to have you on because we know that at your school in Moscow, you have a great student leadership program that I think a lot of us wish we had or could get started. So that's the core of this episode today. And maybe you could just give us a brief outline of what that leadership program is.
Oh, certainly. Well, I think everybody at every international school, we all have students who are, gym helpers in some way. We have a couple kids that like to help scorekeep or, clean up this or help do something. And with our programs, we run tournaments. We have a few kids who are always running around and helping, doing some things. At least I hope we do. And in AS Moscow is no different. And I think every school that I went to, and especially the schools that are in Europe where we don't have the massive support staff that we would have in some of the schools that I had in India or in Africa or even in the Middle East, where some ADs have departments that have, 2 or 3 or 4 assistants, and then those assistants have 2 or 3 or 4 other people. So sometimes we don't have to rely on students. But here in Moscow and in Europe and wages are high, there's usually just the AD, and some of us are very fortunate if we have one assistant, and we're even more fortunate if we have a secretary. So having kids that are able to help are a huge asset to the program. And so how the Penguin Leadership Program actually kind of evolved over the past 6 years is I kind of took a lead from our previous aquatics director, and he had a lifeguard crew and a water safety instructor crew. So our aquatics department had a really strong base of students. And in order to run the aquatics program at the school here and all the programs that they had, we had student lifeguards. And so 7 years ago, we must have had a crew of a good 40, 45 student lifeguards who worked after school and on weekends and in evenings running a lot of the programs that the school wanted to offer and that we were able to offer. As well, we had students, water safety instructors that taught a lot of the courses for elementary schools in the evening and after school activity clubs for elementary school students, which was a huge benefit. And we probably had about 40 students of those as well. And the students had the opportunity to get CAS hours for those jobs or actually get paid cash. Since a lot of these programs were private, kind of after school funded, parents would opt in. They weren't part of our after school activity program. So there was funds available for students to become lifeguards and to pay them, as well as for the water safety instructors for them to teach lessons. And as we all know, it's kind of difficult for our own children and our students to have those type of opportunities to work overseas.
Right.
And so this gave a great opportunity for our students. And so I kind of looked at this and I said, well, you know what? We need a few other opportunities here for our kids. Of course, we need some students to help out with events. So we could call them the Penguin officials, and they would be the ones who would be helping do all the scorekeeping at the tournaments. I'd usually have a field manager or a court manager who's in charge supervising. And over the course of the years here, we ended up having one student or 2 students who were in charge of assigning all the students to scorekeep all of our events. When we would do workshops with them, I would train the kids how to be a proper scorekeeper, official scorekeeper for volleyball and for basketball. And we do 2 or 3 workshops during the course of the years. We train up a crew of students. I have a head student who's in charge of making sure kids get X amount of games during the course of the season. And then we come to big tournaments that we do, our invitational tournaments, these are the students that end up, of course, running the scorekeeper stable, running the courts, posting all the results. So that's one aspect that we got into, that we allowed the students to have that opportunity.
And just for the lifeguards and the water safety, how are they trained? Did they have some certification? Parents know that, they're not just trained by your head of aquatics, but they've passed some official
yeah,
tests.
100%. You're right. So everybody is American Red Cross certified. Our instructors are American Red Cross instructors. Mm-hmm. So they have the certification to teach people how to become lifeguards. Okay. We follow all the ARC certification. The kids have to get their certification. They get their, obviously with their lifeguarding, to get their first aid and a higher level of first aid and CPR. Same thing with the water safety instructors. So we have these kids are top level trained lifeguards and WSI. And this year we've added in scenario training with our security. So this has evolved over the course of the years here. We have a top rate director of security named Todd Lawrence, and he's brought in a whole new level of scenario training with our students. So not only do they do the regular, lockdown drills at the school, and they're in charge of all that kind of stuff, and fire drills that security's in charge of, we also do scenarios for the pool. So we let the kids know sometime this week there's something that's happening, and we've got student lifeguards on deck, and maybe a student will fall into the water, or an instructor, or one of the workers around the pool, and all of a sudden there's a heart attack, or somebody dives in during a PE class and they come up pretending that their neck has been damaged. And we have a whole full school drill that works. We bring in our security team, our health office comes down, ambulance shows up at the school. It's all done as a drill. And so the kids get some really good scenario, real life training, because sometimes you could be a lifeguard and never really, your whole career could go and you may never have to save a life. And then, but then sometimes you do. Yeah. So we want to make everybody trained for that. So these are some evolutions that have happened through the program. But no, everybody's ARC certified. We all have certified instructors, and they have to do the full 27-hour training. We make the kids come in 3 times a year for scenario workshop training during the course of the year. And the WSI's same concept with them as well.
About how many kids take advantage of that program, Kirby?
Well, let's see. Every year we have a crew of 40 active lifeguards right now. That's been a constant. And so I think this year we had a smaller class, and we only had 15 kids who signed up for the beginning of the school year for being lifeguards. But that still keeps our pool of 40 kids, because we need that many, kids, not everybody wants to work all the time, and they have exams, and when they become seniors, that really drops off. But we start, as we run this course, we evolve, and we put in little caveats, like lifeguards have to do at least 2 shifts a month, because we want to keep them fresh. You can't every 6 months show up and think you're going to remember how to be a lifeguard. It doesn't work that way. So we evolve, and we add these things in to make the program better and better and better.
Before we go to the other part of your program, because I know that you do more things, as you mentioned, but Matt, you have a pool. Mm-hmm. Have you investigated how it would work at your school with student lifeguards? Have you had them in the past, or?
Well, it's a little different, because last year was the first year we actually had lifeguard training for students available. We have one of our PE staff who's certified to train folks to get the certification to be a lifeguard, and she's only been able, just within the last 2 years, she's been doing that. And so last year was the first year we had a group of students that took it, and it was a small group. In fact, my son was one of them, but he took that course. It's kind of a crash course over a long weekend. Mm-hmm. And he got the certification, and he was able actually to get a job in the States with it last summer. So he was able to put it to good use and make some money and get some on-the-job experience, which was great, because that's it's not an easy thing for him to do living overseas. So, but we don't have the extensive program, I would say, that Moscow has with 40 odd kids working as lifeguards. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we take it to the next step as well. With we have a number of students that have left here and have gone off to university or summer jobs and have obviously gone on to get jobs as lifeguards, and that's been huge for them as well. We have a pay structure that we've introduced this year as well, too, kind of like a teacher step system. So if you're a year one lifeguard, you get a certain level, and if you lifeguard for X amount of hours in 1 year, the next year you get a bump up in salary. It's the equivalent to, let's say, it starts off at like $11 an hour equivalent US, and the next year you bump up to $12.50. The next year you bump up another $1.50, another $1.52. You max up at a top rate. So we want our kids to come back. We want them to kind of resemble what it looks like to work in the real world.
Right.
And they get evaluations, everything that you would with a regular job. The kids have to apply as well. So for all of our activities, all of our leadership programs, for our CITs, coach and training, for our fitness center supervisors, for our lifeguards, they all have to apply. So we actually make them fill in an application form, a Google Doc. They all have to come in for an interview. And there's a lot of students that this happens. So we don't make the interview, a half hour, 1 hour thing. It's usually about a 10-minute interview. But we have key questions, and I've got a couple crew of my swim instructors and a couple other staff members who help me with this. And we ask a couple key points to make them go through the motion. We give them hints. Hey, next time you're coming in for an interview, you want to dress up a little bit. We want you to look sharp. We have turned away kids with a smile, say, you know what, you're going to come back tomorrow and you're not going to wear those sweatpants up, and you're not going to come 10 minutes late. And we make them come back. And I tell you, we get such positive replies back from parents who really appreciate this kind of stuff. And our kids, when they leave, and we've had, there's been dozens and dozens of kids who leave and come back, and they were either a lifeguard or a fitness center supervisor or something along this line, and they'll come back and they'll go, you know what, when I went for my interview, I just remembered that I needed to dress up and look good, and of course I got the job, even telling me that I was the only one who dressed up, and that was probably the reason why I got the job, and of course I answered the questions well, so yeah. It's all about helping these kids get better, right?
Absolutely, because these opportunities for these work experiences for international kids are super limited, I would think, for the most part.
Yeah.
It's not like us growing up back home where we were able to get a part-time job after school, maybe at a grocery store. That's what I did. Or some other kids worked at the record shop or whatever. These guys just can't get those kind of opportunities to work and get the on-the-job experience.
Yeah. I printed T-shirts and numbers on the back of hockey jerseys at a printing place.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool.
By the way, I just totally dated myself when I said record store.
Yeah.
I was going to pretend, and I was going to ask, what's that exactly?
Well, back in the day, you had to go to the store and get a record or a tape. Yeah. Some of our listeners might identify with that.
And probably 8 tracks, right? You are getting up there, Matt. Did you have 8 tracks?
Well, let's see. Late 80s, we kind of phase those out a little bit. CDs start coming
in. Kirby, you mentioned coaches in training. I think that's pretty cool. Is that for every team? Do you have one wherever you can?
So what we do with this is another program that evolved. We started this 6 years ago, and we have a no-cut policy in our middle school. I think with a lot of international schools probably do the same thing. But I only have 2 assigned coaches per sport, per gender. So two coaches for boys soccer, middle school boys soccer. Okay. But I got 60 boys showing up, right? Basketball, 40 kids, 40 boys show up, but I only have 2 coaches for it. And you can't really coach get a team ready for competitive CISA, as well as have the range of students that are within that 40 or 60, right? So we started looking at kids, and I've done this at different schools before as well, but it took off really well here. Our first year we had 2 or 3 kids only, and then of course word got out that, hey, I can be a varsity athlete or a JV athlete and help coach the middle school kids? Yes, you can. And we made them feel great. They have their own kind of coaches kit, just like we give the teacher coaches. The students get nice polo shirt, nice pair of shorts, nice T-shirt. They get a sweater if they're in the cold weather. Nice pair of coaches' pants, all complimentary. And then they're on a pay scale system as well. They do have to take NFHS courses.
Oh, wow.
And they have to be, if they complete the season properly, then we reimburse them for any fees that were in that course as well. And every one of our students has to take first aid, has to be first aid certified. So before they even can show up at the first practice, they have to get their first aid, and we offer that at the school. We don't reimburse them for that. We say that's something that you will take with you for the rest of your life. So that's a skill set. Not everybody's going to pay for your education, so you're going to have to pay for this. They have to do mandatory concussion protocol course as well. That's run by our health office, and these are things that we've added in and evolved over the course of the years. And we bring in unfortunately, we don't have an athletic trainer at school, but when we have the opportunity, we bring in an athletic trainer who's able to do a little bit of taping with them. And if that person doesn't come in, then I have a little bit of background in taping, so I'll give them some heads up on how to do a few things. But we're hoping that's going to evolve into something bigger for the CITs for the future. But it's been fantastic. And so we end up being able to have our Division 1 competitive team where our teacher coaches focus on those ones, on that team. Then we have what we call a Division 2 team, kind of like our B middle school squad, which still plays competitive games within our school in Moscow. And then we have a developmental program, which is the kids who are just learning. And we have a teacher that helps run that program, a separate teacher. And they usually have 2 or 3 CITs working with them. Okay. But our B team, our Division 2 middle school teams, they have, the goal for them is if the kids can handle it and if they're mentored right, they are basically taken from the beginning of the season where they start with the team and they kind of work with the teacher coaches, and eventually they get weaned off the teacher coaches within a month, and they have to create lesson plans. They plan with the coaches, and they end up running that team for the second half of the season. And we have a local middle school tournament that we are invited to here in the city with other international schools. And our Division 2 middle school teams travel to that tournament, and the students are the ones who are 100% in charge of that team. Oh, cool. They coach the team. They do the motivation before, the post-game talks, and I just sit in the stands with one other teacher coach, and we just sit back and go, yeah, those kids are doing a good job out there. They're fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
That's really cool.
And it made me laugh when you talked about all the training that you're making them do, the first aid, the coaches courses. And I know we don't make our coaches do that, our teacher coaches. So, it could be in some cases your student coaches are more trained than a lot of other schools' primary coach.
In some cases they are. Yeah. But you know what? That's 100% true.
Well, that structure sounds fantastic, and the fact that they have not just those kids in the developmental team or your B team, they have that culminating event at the end of the season. Those kids get a great chance to wrap it up. Who are coaching the team as well, the high school kids, the CIT kids.
Yeah, they do a great job. And even last year, we had the great opportunity where we had 2 of our CITs with the middle school girls softball were able actually to travel to a CISA tournament in Prague. Oh, okay. And they actually coached with the coaches at the CISA tournament. And our coaches came back telling us that, and even Joe in Prague made comments back to me going, I mean, your students were fantastic. They basically were in charge of the team at CISA. Of course, the coach was there, but we had two students being third base coach, first base coach. They'd run out there, get the kids warmed up, and my two coaches were just making sure everything was running smooth. Yeah, so there's some great opportunity, and we might have that opportunity to do that again this year, hopefully if everything goes well as well with the season. We might have 2 of our kids or 4 of our kids being able to travel for softball this year too.
Cool.
Yeah.
If your school is in the market for bespoke sportswear, look no further than Kukri Sports. Kukri has evolved over the last 20 years from a bespoke sportswear manufacturer into a true sportswear partner, firmly believing in the value of sport at all levels. Bespoke teamwear forms a unique part of an individual's sporting story and represents a lasting link to their time in sport. Kukri are proud to play a part in that journey. Every individual can build their own legacy. Kukri Sports creates a sportswear range that inspires as well as performs. Start your journey today. Email the team at contact@kukrisports.com. One of the main things that I really wanted to get started this year was really like a leadership group where we talked more like a class. We talked about leadership, used examples, obviously things back and forth, like a Jeff Jansen type program. It hasn't gone that way this year. It's been going fine, but I wonder if you have tried anything like that or have something like that right now.
Well, that's interesting. I think every school has its own culture and its own way of doing things, right? And every place you go, you think, well, maybe what worked at your last school, why doesn't it work at this one, or something that worked 2 years ago? But of course, as we're getting older and we know we travel to different schools, we realize that every place definitely does have its different culture, and what worked at one school isn't going to work in the next one. Right. And, my first year here, I tried to get an athletic council going, and kids were excited. They came out, but the structure and the design that a traditional athletic council brought forward to the school didn't fly. Tried it the second year and nothing. And it just didn't work. Now, there's different reasons for it. Our school is very club service heavy. We have multiple different types of clubs going on in the school. So to add one more thing where you were asking kids to work and put extra time in, it just didn't fly. But what usually ended up happening, what I noticed over here, is kids started coming around to me asking me, what can I do? What can I do to help? They didn't want to be involved in a club. They just wanted to show up and work a little bit and help out in this way, a little quieter. They didn't want that whole idea of having a president of a club and all this kind of stuff. They didn't like that structure. They just wanted a more meat and potatoes. I want a job. I want to work. I want to help out this way. And here, that ended up working, which also was the reason why the Penguin Leadership Program has flourished in that way. Because we don't run it as a club. We run it as a job and a business. And I think approaching it that way here, the kids really like that idea that I'm getting paid for this. It's a job. We have to interview. We have evaluations. And since it's treated that way, that's exactly the way they have that responsibility and that ownership, and that they like it. And why wouldn't you if you could get a pretty decent job as a high school kid, and giving them full responsibilities.
And learn a skill that they can, like we said, take to a summer job, take the university with them.
Well, sure. Yeah, a couple episodes ago, we talked about how we got our starts into our careers. And I had mentioned before, that's how I got interested in being a PE teacher. Actually, was a PE aide when I was a senior in high school, and that's ended up turning into a career. So it's any chance you can get to kids who you can expose them to things and give them the responsibility and guidance. You never know which way it could turn out. So the fact that they get these opportunities is great.
So the other program that we have here is what we call our fitness center supervisors. So this is a program that we needed. I couldn't get staffing for our fitness center, so we have a very nice weight room, and we have our north gym and our north soccer field and our tennis courts. They are all open to basically our AAS community, which is what we call Sports Zone in the evening times. And it was just an agreement with the housing development landowner company that is adjacent to our school. They kind of gave the school the property, and in turn, they weren't going to build the sports complex on their compound, and they made an agreement with the school that we will use some of your areas. And that was kind of the agreement that was made 15 years ago when they built the school. So they have access to our fitness center, and they have access to one of our gyms and our change rooms, pool a couple times a week in the evening time, and our soccer fields and tennis court. And of course, opening your school to the public has issues that come up, and supervision issues and this kind of stuff. And when you have a fitness center that's probably got close to $100,000 worth of equipment in it, and it's opened in the evening and on weekends without anybody there from the school, you have people, you come in the morning time as a PE teacher, and you walk in and weights are all over the place. Things are broken. Nobody's reported them. So the school was incredibly supportive of allowing us to start up with what we call the fitness center supervisors. So just like you'd walk into Gold's Gym anywhere in the world or any type of professional gym, we have a desk, we have a greeter, we have towels. Once again, they have special uniforms. Everybody gets a towel. They have a checklist every day when they come in about making sure the machines are clean, walking around, reminding everybody, you need any help to put away, you need some help putting that equipment away, you need this, you need that. They file work orders and anything's broken. They are in charge of doing the laundry. So some kids, this is the first time they've ever turned a washing machine on, or even what a washing machine is. And so we have, after school, we have a shift from 3:30 to 5:30, and we have 2 kids in there every day working. And then the evening time every day, 7 to 10, we have 1 person working in the evening, and then on the weekends as well, from 9 o'clock in the morning till 10 p.m., we have somebody in our fitness center manning during holidays and all the time. You can only get in with a Sports Zone badge, and so they're always checking for badges. And we have decreased the damages. It's exponentially how much damage has not occurred anymore. Our machines have never looked better, and there's a little bit more of a new respect for the facility as well. You can actually see and hear other people telling and reminding other ones how to put that away over here, do this over here, and so it's worked out really, really well. They're not in charge of other areas, but they do report if there's an issue going on in the gym or something like that. So that's been another great one. And I've had 4 kids who've left here, and because they were a fitness center supervisor at a gym, they were able to work at Life Fitness in Canada, Gold's Gym in New York, and it's really great to hear those kind of stories from the kids as well.
That's great. Well, that's just another awesome avenue for the students at your school. That's really cool. I think if anyone's listening and they have similar programs or groups or leadership groups, let us know about. Write an email, write us a tweet, and let's see. Let's share what we have going, because I know I definitely want to take some things from Kirby and AAS Moscow back to AIS Vienna for sure. So,
well, that would be great. And then the final thing that we do, which each of the kids
even more.
There's just one more. Just to kind of wrap it up. So all the kids have an opportunity to build their resume. So we offer at the end of, usually it's the great kids who are leaving the school. They don't know how to make a resume, right? Because they got to go off, and now they're going to go get their jobs and try to go somewhere. So at the end of each one of their seasons, they have to do a review, fill it all in Google Doc or Google Forms, And what ends up happening is they come and they sit down with me they have to book an appointment. We do a review, and I ask them, do you guys want the resume package? And then a lot of the kids who are leaving go, yes, I do. And so I'll go through and we actually create their resume based on, what 3 things did you learn during, what were your 3 main tasks as a fitness center supervisor? What were your 3 main tasks as a CIT? What were your 3 main tasks as this? What were your certifications? What other clubs and services have you done? So then they fill in all their MUN and all the other things that they've been doing. And next thing you know, within half an hour, they've got this resume that they can walk out and go apply for a job anywhere. And that's kind of the wrap up for the 2 bookends. They started off with the interview, now they finished with their resume, and off they go. And it's takes a lot of work, takes a lot of time, but once you've done it a few times, you figure out how to speed up the process. But I tell you, the kids who do want to take that opportunity, it's really incredibly beneficial for them. But that's not something we started 5 years ago. That's obviously something that we evolved as we noticed there was a need for it, and the kids really appreciated it.
You can't just dive right into the deep end, right? You have to.
That's right. It's got to be earned.
Well, another great reason to have you on, Kirby, is all the work you've done with your conference. But we want to know what's next. Usually, I think you always have the next year's date, or it went to every 2 years. Right now, I think a lot of us out here are wondering what's next for you in the I3AC.
Oh, what's next? What's next? That's a good question. Well, we are going to be doing a conference in 2020.
Okay.
And we're most likely going to be doing another one in Bangkok. The original idea was to kind of move it around the world, and but we ended up going to Bangkok for quite a few years because, as being an AD and everything else that we do, having a family life, and then trying to run a conference that's as big as it is, it all takes time.
Yeah.
And so we decided to take a year break. And this year, I was hoping we were going to move it around to maybe actually to go to China. There was a possibility to go to Beijing. There was a possibility to go to Addis Ababa, back to where we started, or go back to Bangkok. So we're kind of in between right now with the world situation with the coronavirus.
Right.
Putting a date up right now could be a good thing, but there's a lot of things that we have to do when you book a conference in a hotel and all that kind of stuff. You have to put some money down, and if you don't show up, and if the coronavirus doesn't go away anytime soon, and if you don't have people coming, you can't pay the bills. So we're just we're holding back. Okay. We don't want to announce anything until we know exactly, we get the dates and things in the world kind of get back to normal. Let's just say that. But we do want to set something. If there's going to be anything, we want to do it for fall. We want to go 2020. We'll go back to Bangkok.
Okay.
Just because it'll be a easier location. And then the following, we want to try to do this every 2 years. Okay. And then we do want to go back to Africa, and get some people in Africa, and go in that direction as well. But in the meantime, we've got the I3AC magazine that Annie from Athens has spearheaded originally a couple of years ago. And we're looking at trying to get our 3rd edition out, which I think is kind of like the paper version of what the podcast is, right? Yeah. People talking about some great things that they're doing at their school, writing an article, and you get something that's digitally published. So we're excited about hoping to get our 3rd magazine out fairly soon.
Great. And are you still accepting submissions for that, or are we past
we will. In fact, I was just talking with Annie right now, and we still need quite a few more articles. We've got about 5, but she definitely wants 5 more. So I'm going to send another email out to all the members around the world, and hopefully we'll still get some more articles. I know I'm supposed to write one myself, and I haven't had time to do it.
Easier said than done, right?
Exactly.
Well, I know I'll put Annie's contact or the contact that you want up on our website, and we definitely have people listen all around the world. So hopefully, if you're out there and you want to write an article or you have an idea, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's great to do. It's great to share.
Yeah, we want to hear about cool things that you're doing at your school. that, I mean, and if you don't think it's cool, I'm sure there's a coach or somebody or if you think somebody else is doing something cool, write an article about them. Because I know a lot of times we're not going to brag about ourselves, but, brag about somebody else and some of the cool things that they do as a coach or as a different program that goes on at your school. I think would be great.
Yeah.
That's funny you just said that, because I was going to say that I would have never wrote an article for you for the first episode if Annie didn't say, hey, I really like the signage you have around school. I think you should write something about it. So that was a great kind of kick in the butt for me, and it was great to hear the other people liked what I was doing. So
there you go. That's exactly it.
Yeah, I just want to get back to the kind of the genesis of the conference, because I mean, for myself, I can remember getting a random email from you back when you were in Ethiopia.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of wanted, I think back then it was almost like a forum that you could send questions to and kind of get replies back and share information.
Oh yeah, that was time. That was before Facebook or anything like that.
Yeah, and I remember being like joining that, and it was cool. It was like you're getting to know names of folks from these other international schools and people putting questions out there. And hey, how do you do this? How do you organize your PE program or deal with facilities? And then I remember about the conference. The original one I think was in Addis Ababa, right? So maybe if you want to share a little bit about the kind of how it all started in terms of like how you got the conference going and that sharing of information.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, it really was me getting to after being in the Middle East and actually being in places where they're building, and there's every type of development that you could ask for. And then I moved to Ethiopia, and I'm actually trying to figure out how I can resurface my hardwood gym floor that hasn't been resurfaced in 10 years. And I'm, well, how do I do this? Who do I call? Who do I call in Ethiopia? Well, there's nobody. Well, who do I call anywhere in the world who's going to come and get this fixed for me? Because somebody installed this 20 years ago or 30, 40 years ago. And the people have been putting regular household floor wax on a hardwood floor. So we had kids who were running down the basketball court trying to do a layup and sliding for 6 meters. So I had to figure out what to do. And so talked to a tech guy, and we kind of created this forum. The directors, the superintendents at the time had something called, I want to say it was called HeadNet. And they could do something where they would kind of go online and send a message, email message would go around the world. And, whatever directors would, hey, what are you guys doing for your pay scale this year? How do you guys handle school stipends? How do you guys handle your HR department? And so the superintendents and heads of schools were on this HeadNet. And so I said, well, we should have something for ADNet. And so that's originally how it came up. I got a tech guy to work on this for me, and he kind of created an email system. I just had to get people to sign into it, and then we could ask each other questions. Now that, of course, with Facebook and everything else, that, it worked for probably a good 3-4 years, and then 5 years, and it fizzled out. And people obviously can connect in other ways. But then I was at a conference in Nairobi, in Africa, and they actually had a room at the conference for athletic directors and PE teachers. And so I walked into the room thinking somebody was going to run it and find out what the workshop was about. And people were looking at me going, well, you're the guy with this ADNet. Why don't you say something or run a workshop? And I was going, well, I can't do that off. Yeah, that's the last thing in the world I want to do is run a conference or a workshop for athletic directors and PE teachers. Well, sure enough, a year later, I did one in Ethiopia, and it kind of took off from there. I think we had 47 people show up for the first one. And probably we had Dan Gould from Michigan State University was more than happy to fly out. Fantastic keynote. And it couldn't have started off better. We had Haile Gebrselassie, the world-renowned long-distance runner. he came into the Hilton Hotel and did our opening speech for us. And you basically had, it was like a god showing up from Ethiopia, showing up at the Hilton, and the hotel actually shut down for about 15 minutes. I was told afterwards by the manager, it was great that you had Haile Gebrselassie come here and do the speech, but could you let us know ahead of time? There was nobody in our kitchen. Our reception desk closed down, and everybody came to watch his opening speech because he's such a wonderful he's a young, fantastic gentleman that every Ethiopian wanted to see him. But yeah,
cool.
It was a great conference, that very first one.
That's cool.
All right, an 8th one in 2020.
Yeah, we're hoping the 8th one in 2020. If everything settles down and people are willing to get on airplanes again and start flying and come to Thailand, then we'll get that going here. We hope in the next month. It would be great to be able to make an announcement.
Well, before we let you get out of here, it's getting pretty late in Moscow at the moment. Moscow is definitely a city that a lot of people around the world want to go to, want to visit. And then in your time in Moscow, what's been your favorite thing to see or do? Favorite food? I don't know. Give us some insider tip.
Oh, wow, man. You know what? The best, great question. I don't have a car in Moscow. You don't need one. The metro system here, I think, is second to none in the world. And the city's gorgeous. It's got the most green space of any capital city in the world, if not the most green space of any city in the world. There are parks everywhere. And I walk religiously. When I can, on weekends, I'll walk a good 20 kilometers on a weekend, just checking out the city. There's nothing more thrilling than being in Red Square. And if you grew up in the 70s and 80s when this was a place that you were never thought you were ever going to be allowed to go to or could go to have that opportunity to be in Red Square is amazing. The Kremlin is gorgeous. St. Basil's Cathedral is beautiful. I tell you what, there's more English being spoken here every day. The people are lovely. They really are. I mean, they have this thing. A lot of people mention that the Russians don't smile and stuff like this, and they look grumpy. But the Russians have this saying that only a crazy person smiles. And when you think about it, really, when you're walking down the street, people aren't smiling unless you're living in a small town somewhere in rural wherever. You don't usually say hello to people and smile and wave at people. You just don't do that. In Moscow, city of 16 million, you're not doing that on the metro. So, but I'll tell you what, I was walking down the street this weekend, Sunday, and a gentleman asked me where one of the metro stations was, and I kind of figured out what he was talking about. My Russian is not that great. And I went, "Я не понимаю по-русски, I don't understand Russian." And he looked at me, he goes, English, welcome to Moscow, enjoy, welcome. He's going, I don't think I'd get that in too many other places in the world. I'm sure you would, but I tell you, it's just a fantastic place. But Red Square is one of the coolest places you can ever go. Yeah,
it's pretty unique. I've had pleasure of going there twice in my time in CISA, and it's been a thrill each and every time for sure.
Yeah,
and my daughter had a chance to go there last year, and she absolutely loved it. So, got to go to the circus, and you guys do a great job there of hosting, and it's a great opportunity for our kids to get there. Once we get through all the hoops for the visa and all the work that goes into it, it's a great trip.
2021, Moscow's supposed to be having 30-day online visas.
Hey!
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's some good news.
St. Petersburg already has them, but they're hoping to get them for Moscow, too. That's in the plan. 2021.
Kind of like going to Istanbul? Kind of like that process?
Kind of like that, yeah.
That'd be great. Fingers crossed for that, too.
Yeah, I tell you.
That's some good news for any CISA AD listening out there, for sure.
Definitely.
All right, Kirby. Well, thanks again for joining us and sharing your program and sharing the history and the future of your conference and magazine. And I wish all the best with the conference. And really, when you know and have an announcement, we'll definitely get it up on our website too, and try to spread the word for you.
Oh, great. Appreciate it, guys. Hey, and keep this up. This is the coolest thing that you guys are doing, really. This is, I really, really like this podcast idea, and looking forward to listening to all your future podcasts as well. It's really informative. I like it. I like it a lot.
Thanks, Kirby. That's great to hear.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's a fun way to spend a Tuesday night.
Hey, I just got to, how about when we do get the date, you guys come to Bangkok and you guys do some live podcasts from the conference.
That sounds fantastic, Kirby.
Yeah.
We'll
bring our studio.
Bring the studio along. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a great idea. I haven't been I haven't been to that side of the world, so that's a great reason to go.
There you go. All right, guys. Hey, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, big thanks to Kirby and providing all that information about the programs they do with kids there in Moscow. Some great stuff, some hands-on experiences, and the lifelong skills that those kids will be able to take on with them. So if you can catch those up and put them into your program somehow, it surely will help. So big thanks, and we appreciate it, Kirby.
Yeah, and thanks to all of you for listening once again. We hope you keep turning back in and find what we're talking about useful, and look for our next episode in 2 weeks' time.
All right, we'll see you next time on the Globetrottin ADs.